For over 35 years, Todd Garner has overseen blockbuster films like Con Air, Anger Management, Triple X, 13 Going on 30, and the Mortal Kombat franchise.
Why are they letting you make these movies?
Join Todd as he shares tips and stories from the front lines of producing in Hollywood.
I'm Adam Sandler.
I'm Rebel Wilson.
This is Jeff Probst.
I'm Kaylee Cuoco.
I'm Eli Roth.
This is Marlon Wayans.
Hey, it's Ed Helms.
This is Shay Mitchell.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin James, and this is The Producer's Guide.
The Producer's Guide.
The Producer's Guide.
The Producer's Guide with Todd Garner.
Todd Garner.
Todd Garner.
Todd Garner.
What a combination.
All right, welcome to The Producer's Guide. I'm your host, Todd Garner. Today, I'm sitting down with dear friends and unbelievably talented producers, Julie Lynn and Bonnie Curtis. And they are the producing duo behind Mockingbird Pictures. Julie started out in the independent space, producing such movies as Mother and Child and the Jane Austen Book Club, 10 Items or Less, etc. And Bonnie began her career as a producer, producing for Steven Spielberg on a few little movies you may have heard of called Saving Private Ryan, AI, Minority Report, and The Lost World, Jurassic Park. These two amazing people got together and formed Mockingbird Pictures, where they have produced such movies as Wakefield, To the Bone, Last Days in the Desert, Albert Nobbs, which was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, as well as the studio pictures Terminator Dark Fate, and the animated film My Father's Dragon. I wanted to bring them on because they're so uplifting, they're so positive, and they are incredible producers with a huge body of work. And as Julie likes to say, she tries to find the little green sprouts of optimism and kind of make those grow in our business. And I will say that Bonnie has the greatest best day on set story I've ever heard. Enjoy. All right, I'm here with Julie Lynn and Bonnie Curtis. Hello, ladies.
Hi, Todd.
Hi, Todd.
How's it going today?
It's going well. It's a beautiful day in LA.
I just made her a salad for lunch, so she's very happy with me.
Nice. I feel like when I ask producers that question now, it's such a loaded question.
Don't you feel that there are little green shoots of possibility? It feels like there was all this smush contraction, like strikes and then contraction and this and then that. And now I feel like the little green shoots of possibility are coming back again.
Well, why didn't I call my podcast Little Green Shoots of Possibility? That would have been a much better title and more apropos, I think. So that's the reason I brought you guys back. We spoke on Strike Talk. One of the biggest issues producers have is that, A, people don't know what we do, and people just think, oh, we're just all working all the time and we're all just, we're all rich and we should be, why are we complaining and what's the problem? And Bonnie produced all these movies with Spielberg. The roads are paved with gold out here in Hollywood. And well, by your reaction, I can tell that's not true. But I want to go back before we get into the challenges of the business. Julie, you came from the independent world almost exclusively, probably, really in the toiling in the trenches. And Bonnie, you came from big studio movies, so specifically working with Steven Spielberg. And you guys must have seen something in each other that said, oh, you guys are like-minded producers. What was that you saw in each other of like, oh, you're a producer too. Like, I see myself in you, or maybe it was the complete opposite. And then what drew you to partner together?
I had been working over at Amblin, which then became DreamWorks. I'd been super close to Steven every day of my life for 15 years.
He still looks longingly at her whenever we run into him.
And I do.
Oh, there she is.
I do the same. It's a very familial feeling, but I grew up over there, age 23 to 38. I was his assistant, and then I moved into producing with him. We'd gone over to Poland to make Schindler's List, and then we came back, and the guys started DreamWorks, and I stayed super close to him during that because I think it would have been a crime to leave him then because we were building a studio. I then started producing with him, and I had known early on that I wanted to find a young filmmaker who wanted to make the movies I wanted to make. I was very honest and open about that. And, you get part of that beautiful world of Spielberg, and it just, I learned so much. So you're going to the next thing, going to the next thing, going to the next thing. And one day you look up and it's been 15 years. He was really supportive of me going out on my own. Kathy Kennedy and Frank Marshall had done a similar thing several years before I did. And he was great about it. And he gave me a deal, and I got a little independent film made that nearly killed me. and called The Chum Scrubber, and worked with a first-time filmmaker, Ari Posen, had also a wonderful time. But it was during that process that I was at Sundance and I saw this movie called 9 Lives that Julie had made with Rodrigo Garcia. What year was that, Julie?
Well, we were making when I was pregnant with Zoe.
That's how we track our...
She was 4 weeks old. We went to Sundance. So that would have been January of 2005.
And I loved it. I just loved it. And I wanted to meet the filmmakers. I highly recommend seeing it if you have never seen it. But Rodrigo wrote and directed it. Julie produced it. They made it for $2.
$500,000.
$500,000. But the cast, just look up 9 Lives. You'll know every actor's name. And each section was one camera move. And it was just experimental, but emotional and wonderful. And I was like, I want to meet those people. So I was having lunch with a very dear friend of mine who also knew this independent producer named Julie Lynn. And it was the Julie Lynn that had produced 9 Lives. And my friend, Michelle Vanitas, who we give a shout out to, she's retired now, but she was a first assistant director for many years. And I had worked with her on the Jurassic Park movies. And Michelle said, you need to meet my friend, Julie Lynn. She's been making independent film basically out of her kitchen for years, and she knows how to do it soup to nuts. And you should go over there and meet her. So I cold called Julie.
At which point why is Steven Spielberg's producer calling me? What is this?
But you know how nice Julie is, Todd, and she calls me right back. She returns every phone call.
2 things real quick before we move on from this. I've never met Steven Spielberg in my 38 years in the movie business.
Makes no sense to me. You need to meet him.
No, it's crazy. It's the most bizarre. It's like my weird little fact that I have about myself. And it's like, I've seen it. I've been in the same room with him. I've seen him walk by, worshipped him from afar, never met him. But I do want to talk about what about that movie made you say, wow, because you're leaving the kingdom and going out into the woods. What about that movie made you want to talk to Julie about it?
We all grew up on Steven's movies. I was going to the local art house. I was seeing The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I was seeing stuff that was of very actor driven and very literary based. I loved prestige cinema. And of course I went to see E.T. and of course I went to see the Raiders movies. And I'm talking about when I was a kid. But my heart belonged to Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola and Jim Brooks, these comedic, very character driven movies. And that's what 9 Lives is. It's character, 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 character. And it's also just, there's a Robin Wright, Jason Isaacs scene in it that all happens in the aisles of a grocery store. One of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie. It's just so real. And that's Rodrigo.
That's Rodrigo.
That's Rodrigo Garcia. It's just so real. Glenn Close brought Rodrigo in to direct Albert Nobbs, which is the movie Julie and I met on. And Julie comes to it through Rodrigo. I come to it through Glenn.
Well, we had met before.
Yeah.
And Rodrigo actually said to me one day, Glenn's brought me her passion project to direct. It already has a producer, which was weird for us, right? And I'm like, I asked him who it was, and he said it was Bonnie Curtis. And I said, oh, well, I met her. I had lunch with her.
She cold called me one day.
And she will be fine. Have a great time. And then as they were trying to put it together, every once in a while they would go to an actor that I knew, or they would be trying to put something together, and I would just offer advice. And then one day, after a couple of years of that, Rodrigo calls me on the phone and says, Bonnie and Glenn are going to call and ask you to produce with them, and say yes. And so Bonnie did. And it's funny because Bonnie thought that she needed the director's producer, and that was kind of the holdup, which it really wasn't. As the same Michelle Vanitas said, a pony could, show up for Rodrigo and he would still get the movie done. It wasn't that. I think it was just that walking through how to kind of jerry-rig a movie into happening when it's an impossible movie. I mean, Glenn Close was our star, but as I said to Bonnie, she wasn't dressed to look like herself.
She's disguised as a man.
She's disguised as a man. And it was period. And so not super cheap.
But it was 100% the movie I would go to the local art house to see as a kid. like everything about it. And we loved the script. We loved it.
And so I said yes when Bonnie called me. And then we realized about, I don't know, a couple weeks into the shoot, we worked on it together. We raised the money together. We went and prepped together. And about a week into the shoot, we were walking back from our little, 3-banger that had no heat and no light and a little like electric lantern in it. And we looked at each other and I said, "Do you want to read something else?" And she said, "Yeah." We haven't done anything without the other.
We
since.
never had to discuss it. It was, I think we're like, if it was a personal relationship, I think we're the couple that there was never really a proposal. They just kind of always knew.
And there's no official division of labor.
No, I think one of the reasons we love it is we're both really busy people and we never have to discuss anything.
One of my favorite moments on Albert Nobbs was Bonnie comes up to me one day and she's like, all these paparazzi are trying to sneak in to get a shot of Glenn in her costume. I think we need to organize some kind of a press conference and also release a photo. Are you okay if I do that? And I was like, are you kidding me? I would rather slit my wrists and drink my own blood than do that.
Organize that.
And she's like, great, I'll do that. You go back to set where you seem to know people's names there. Just you go do that.
Amazing. So do you remember any other of those moments where you looked at each other and you said, that's a real producer? That's somebody I'd want to be in business with.
100%. Constantly, every day.
It's happened a few times today.
Yeah. It's not so much in the style of producing. It is in the way of thinking about what's important.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. I think we do most everything together. Like I said, we don't divide things up, although there are things that each of us gravitate more towards. But it is.
And we're fully aware that we could do it alone.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the part that is.
But we are better
wonderful.
And it's much more fun when we're together.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to Bonnie, without you dead, because I think a lot of it is chemical in finding a producing partner. And a lot of it is just having a person to help you get through the hard parts and to celebrate the highlights with. That's no small thing. And it is interesting because we have had multiple partners on multiple movies. And I really do think it is as much ethics and chemistry as anything else. Because, right now we have a partner on a movie. He brought us the movie. He optioned the foreign film upon which our movie is going to be based. And he's never produced a movie before. But we love having him around because he's thoughtful and smart and doesn't pretend to know what he doesn't know and offers up freely of himself what he feels. And the chemistry is good and the ethics are the same. It's zero problem. We just love him and we absorb him. And I honestly, it's sort of like getting married, but without those benefits. It's like, it's just like, who can you be with every day? Who's going to make you be the best version of yourself? And who is really, from my perspective, I always feel like Bonnie's the smarter one because her understanding of the politics of putting together a movie is so huge. And her ability to look forward and play the tape out of what's coming down the road is so insightful.
I had a front row seat for 15 years to Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy, and Frank Marshall. Most of it I know in hindsight. And to be fair, the business has changed a lot too. And I'm just as often wrong as I'm right. But Julie was just with her own grit, just getting these little independent films made. And any of us who have dabbled in both worlds get the difference. There's such a creative freedom in the independent sphere. And there's such a, you've got to keep the studio happy in the studio world.
And I really did not understand that. Tell them about our first studio film.
Oh, well, Todd, you'll love this story. And I have no issue letting the world know this story. So I had only produced for Steven Spielberg. Yes, in the studio system. And I had watched Steven, maintain relationship with everyone. And Steven's a wonderful politician, but he shot what he wanted to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And, no one's going to question at this stage in the game. So Julie's off doing independent films and they're shooting what the writer director wants to shoot. There's no studio looking over the shoulder going, nope, we don't want that version. You need to get this. No. So the lovely folks at Skydance, our dear friends, Dana Goldberg, Don Granger, and David Ellison, had given us a movie to make. And this was probably 10 or 11 years ago. And it's a movie called Life with Rebecca Ferguson, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Ryan Reynolds. And Daniel Espinosa was directing. And
and Reese and Warnock had written it.
It was, alien on a spaceship. It was a great, and we prepped the heck out of it. We were right on budget and on time. It was all good. And it was Jake's first day. And Jake, he just wasn't in the groove yet. It was his first day of shooting. And there was a scene, he didn't want to say these few lines that were scripted. He preferred doing another direction. And Daniel, our director, liked his idea. And Daniel came over to our table. Julie and I are right there on set all the time. He comes over to the table and he says to us, Jake would rather try this than that. Is that okay with you guys? Well, Steven Spielberg. I'm like, sure. And Julie's independent film, sure. So
it wasn't bad. It was like
and we had figured out how we were going to cover the information in another scene. I mean, we were thinking about the movie as a whole. Yeah. We just didn't know the rules yet.
Right.
So sweet Dana Goldberg, one of the best people on the planet, calls us the next day, doesn't yell, doesn't say anything, but says, okay, what's going on in these dailies? I'm like, and I said, well, Jake, and I explained to her what I just explained to you. And she goes, oh my God, I just realized that you've only made movies with Steven Spielberg and Julie's only made movies in the low budget independent sphere. So Bonnie, you've basically been making independent movies too.
Yeah.
But no, you have to lay down. You got to get a good version of what's scripted and then you can play, but you got to get what's scripted. Oh, okay. Oh, right. We didn't know that. She goes, let me go run around and tell everyone before they watch the day.
You haven't gone insane.
Yeah.
What is in the movie?
What's in the movie? The silent scene.
Of course.
Re-edited and over.
Well, because you're there on the day, and that's what good producers do, is they make those calls on an hourly basis for the good of the movie, which is...
Well, go ahead.
Yeah,
whoa.
I do think, we're just having the same thought. I do think that one of the things that we definitely agree on, and we are sometimes almost of one brain. I can tell you a funny story about my husband and the two of us being of one brain, me and Bonnie. But we really, I think what I hope a good producer can do are a few things. One is we're the ones that have the whole movie in our heads, right? We're not producing just for one actor. We're not producing just for one writer. We're not producing just for the director. We are producing for the movie. The movie is king. So we're holding it all together. The finances, the logistics, the creative, the aspirational, the danger zones, we're holding it all. And I think that's really an important thing for a producer to do. And I do believe that the best producers, and we strive to be amongst them. I don't know if we will ever get there, but we're working on it. They do that. And also I think they are different for every director, because I think every director, and we definitely are directors, producers. We love our directors so much. You produce a little bit differently for every director. We had a very big movie where the director was at odds with one of the foundational producers who was not on the set. It was a movie that we were called into at the last minute to kind of EP and be there. And every day we shot 2 movies. Wow. Every day.
That's not ideal.
I think what would have happened differently if we had known the rules, it probably would have forced a very early foundational conversation with Jake Gyllenhaal, which was...
Oh, now you're back to the other movie.
I'm back to Life now, which is to basically say, tell him we got to lay down at least one, and then you can do whatever you want. And I think, we all know that an actor is going to come into a new setting and test the waters. We all know. And I've many times have watched, producers and other filmmakers get actors to say things and then shift to another gear, all those things. We literally just did not know.
Yeah.
Right.
We took that information to the movie that we went in that was, needed us to come in at the last minute, and where, 2 different head honchos wanted 2 different versions, and we were shooting 2 every day. But what was great was we were able to extrapolate from our experience on that first movie and bring it to the later film, right? In
Yeah.
a way that really worked. I mean, also we were incredibly lucky on that first film. I mean, to have, those actors who could
Yeah.
do all kinds of things. And really we did not have.
And they
issues
played
with that.
ball the rest of the time.
Yeah.
But now we knew, lay one down and then let's move
Yeah.
on. And Daniel appreciated us backing him up. But yeah, it was a schooling that I had no knowledge of.
Well, speaking of being a director's producer, before we move on to just a more general approach of what that means, since I never have met Steven Spielberg and probably never will, I'll never get to ask him this question. But if I was to ask Steven Spielberg what he wanted in a producer, what would he say about you and Frank and Kathy? Like, what does he look for in a producer?
That's
And now Christy, who's his wonderful producer. We love her.
The way I would answer that is, I know what I did when I was there. My whole thing with him is you could lock him on a sound stage with all the equipment and he'd come out with a great movie. He understands how all the equipment works, all the editing equipment, all the camera equipment, all the grip, lighting. He is absolutely a professional at every level. He's never not been making movies and he never will not be making movies. This is what the man was born to do. So he's the expert. And what's wonderful when you're a soldier like I am is trying to achieve for the expert what he or she desires, but maintaining enough personal relationship with him that you can also give him the bad news. And I think that was because I had grown up as his assistant and had gotten very close to him. They would send me in. Now, this is Kathy and Frank are long gone. Kathy Kennedy does not mind giving bad news. Trust me. She's already figured out how to fix it and make it good before she presents the bad. But I had no issue going and sitting with him and saying, okay, we're over budget and we got to figure it out. And he never wanted to be over budget. He didn't want to be overscheduled. He was the most responsible human. So what I learned is that actually giving him the bad news was an excellent thing to do because he would come up with the solve that nobody else was coming up with. And that was actually the times where he was the most creative. So I think he would probably say someone he can trust, someone he can trust, someone who's going to give him the full lay of the land, and someone who's going to think ahead for him. Because he's so immersed in his shot list for the day and what he's getting in the present moment. And I was usually focused on what we were going to shoot the next week, what's happening the next week. And I'd been doing that naturally for several years. And then Kathy came back to produce AI. Kathy and I got to produce AI together for Steven. And that's when I really got some great hands-on mentoring from her, because we were side by side all day, every day. And a lot of my instincts in the years she wasn't there had been correct. She'd be like, hey, you need to do this because next week, da-da-da-da. And I'd be like, okay, I'm getting this right. I'm getting this right.
I mean, Todd, I know you're building this podcast for folks, for producers, right? And for the craft of producing.
For anybody who wants to know about the craft of producing, it's sort of about a lot of things. It's about learning how to produce. What does a producer do? Because I really want people to be good at it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to do it the right way, as opposed to just say, oh, I wrote a check or I just got the credit because I knew the actor or whatever.
I would say there are two things one from each of us that we brought to that, what I call the close-up prep. Like you've done your long prep, your pre-production period, but prep doesn't really stop. Prep continues all the way through the movie because, as Bonnie is fond of saying, you don't shoot the whole movie on the first day. Now, you want to have...
That's what Steven Spielberg used to say.
You want to have all your money in the bank. You don't want to start without having all your money in the bank. And you want to have prepped the movie properly. But there's the little things that you have to look towards. And I think we each brought something important that we've used on virtually every movie since. One is what Bonnie brought, which is, okay, sometime during the week before, let's sit down together, the two of us, or, with whoever's working with us closely at that moment, and let's read all the pages that are scheduled for next week. just to make sure
We have everything.
we have done everything we need to do and haven't left something undone. Locations, wardrobe, props, actor prep, stunt issues, safety issues, whatever. So every week and not on Friday, but during the week, earlier in the week, reading together the pages that we're shooting the following week. That was absolutely a Bonnie thing.
Well, and that's something we still do, and we do it in person because you can't trust email. People, they get too many, they don't read them. But when you're gathered in a community, an in-person community, Julie and I will divide up the list and go around, and she'll go walk down to costumes and I'll walk over to props, and we just make sure that everybody is ready.
Yeah. And if you've got great department heads, you're golden, right? Because everybody can figure it out. And then the one that I brought, which is something I just started doing as an independent filmmaker, is the 5-minute meeting, which is when we wrap at the end of the day. We meet with the director of photography, the first AD. Sometimes if it's a bigger movie and the line producer will want to come, they're very welcome. I mean, actually, anybody who wants to be there is welcome, but it has to be the director, the DP, the first AD, and us. And we have a 5-minute meeting about what we're doing first up the next day. And we'll go through sort of the timeline for the next day, so that it seems like such a simple, maybe obvious thing, what we're going to do, but it isn't always. And what you don't want to do is have somewhere, depending on the size of your movie, of between 50 and 500 people come in the next morning and spend an hour or 2 hours of the time where everybody's on the clock figuring out what the first shots of the day are and where you need to be by when. So between Bonnie's read ahead and my 5-minute meeting at the end of the day, it's like a mini prep inside the time of the movie. Well, and I think it's invaluable.
And it also helps you, what's the word I'm looking for? It helps you expose your weak links.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can really start, because nobody's perfect.
No.
Nobody's perfect.
And things change.
Things change. A department might need more help than they have. A department, you literally start to see, and 9 times out of 10, there's one department that needs more support, needs more producerial support than other departments. There's all the departments that you're just like, well, we'll hire them again because we never had to.
And sometimes the one that need more support, it's not their fault. They've just been, things have been changed up on them.
But sometimes it is their fault.
Yeah, sometimes.
So, but you can still be there for them.
Yeah.
Again, nobody's perfect. Being ahead and enabling the filmmaker on the day to have every tool that is his or her, within reach is key. And when they don't have it, it's going to slow you down, or it's going to just, upset the dynamic of the day, and you don't get the footage that you needed.
It's why it's important to go there. It's like you have to be available to your crew and cast. If you're not there, I mean, I know it's the 21st century and people have Zoom and phone and email and text, but it's not the same as having your body either at base camp, which is where you most often find Bonnie, or on the set, which is where you'll most often find me, just there for people. Because honestly, our job is really human resource management, just human resources, people talking together, making sure that production design is talking to the camera department, making sure that locations is talking to transpo. Like, we are managing these incredible creative humans, all of whom are focused each on their own department. And we're the ones that have to
keep the big picture.
Yeah. Well, I always think of it like being a mile ahead of the production. And kind of the best visual metaphor I can think of is a movie is a very large, slow moving vehicle moving across a desert.
Ocean
and
line.
if you can be paving the way far enough ahead that the thing doesn't fall off into the dirt, you're doing your job. Just keep making it as smooth as possible for everybody else to come in and have smooth as sailing as you possibly can, so that everybody can do their jobs without being distracted about all the other bullshit that can happen in a day.
And also so they feel safe in their environment.
Yes.
Right? I think people are the most creative when they feel the safest.
Yeah.
I once met with the director who I had really been longing to work with, and we had dinner together in New York. And I was so excited. We'd been set up by their distributor. They were thinking about a producer for the next project. And I remember very clearly him saying to me, I really like everybody to not be really like everybody to be on edge and sometimes it's better if they're not getting along. And I want everybody to come each day feeling a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous, because that's when I think they do their best work. And I looked at him and I said, I am not the right producer for you. I totally get that that's the thing and that works for you, but that's not how I work, and we're not suited to work together. It broke my heart a little bit, but I was so clear it would have been a problem.
Given that you guys have been together for quite a while, made some movies together, saw the best in each other, saw what producers do. If somebody would say to you, what is a good producer? What is your answer to that question?
I mean, for me, it is definitely part of it is an ability to get things done in a constructive, with some alacrity, with respect, so that everyone feels they've been heard. It's not about moving quickly. It's not about quick. Kathy Kennedy used to say to me, it's often very important to give people the respect to take their time responding to you. You have to allow and respect people enough, because we're such doers that you find yourself, deep in the busy work of this every day. And that, I think you have to be confident and you have to be measured about how you move your goals forward. But it's definitely a good producer. It's everything we've been talking about. Sees the big picture, can go in for the details, but then pull back for the big picture, and allows other people the time and respect to feel part of the ultimate decision. I don't feel like when we're there in person every day and we've formed friendships and relationships with 200 plus people who are helping us move. I call it an ocean liner, Todd. I'm always about the ocean liner. I am fairly confident that we could get these people to do just about anything we need them to do. They know we have the best interests of the movie at heart, or the project, whatever we're doing. We aren't impatient. We're not assholes. We take the time to go sit and hear their perspective before we say, okay, let's do it this way.
You're really talking about an ability to meet the moment as it presents itself.
It's very important, I think, to take the time to allow people to weigh in, but ultimately know that we are the decision makers. Like, this is great. We've talked to everybody. We're going to be doing this. See you tomorrow. I think you have to be very decisive and very clear. And I like to, once the exploration phase has occurred, I like to speak in statements, not questions. The how do you feel about that is done. Now we're doing it. And, or you're never going to get your movie shot. And I am grateful at the end of the day that all we're doing is making movies. One ethical, I guess you call it an ethical thing, that we start all our production meetings telling people, okay, first of all, this is just a movie. It's just a movie. If anyone's dealing with health or family issues, or you need an ear, we're here. That's much more important to us.
Bonnie has a great saying, which I think you might have gotten from your mom, which is, it's amazing how much you can get done when you don't care who gets credit for it.
Yeah.
And I think the flip side of that is making sure that each department knows how much they're valued by other departments, which maybe doesn't sound like a huge thing, but
it is.
It is possible to have conflict all the time on a movie set. The sound people may be annoyed by how much noise the camera is making. The production designer may really have an issue with how the lighting is affecting the look that they were after with the set. And sometimes I feel like sometimes I should be just carrying a canister of foam on my back, because sometimes just foaming the bridge between the departments so that they can hold each other up, and in their communication, they can understand how much they're treasured by the other folks, it's really valuable. And it's true. It's a true and authentic thing. But what it does is it gives people a permission structure to go to each other with their problems. So like if I'm the sound guy and there's a costume that's making too much noise because of the way we're pinning the mic, I already have a bridge to the dressers to be able to talk about it. And it seems like such a small thing, but creating that communications setup is so huge. We make sure, of course, like most producers do, to have a department head meeting every week and to look at what's of pre-production and to all be together for problem solving.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, because when you offer up your problem as a department head to all the other department heads, it's amazing what can happen.
Mhm.
It's really something very beautiful.
Why did Skydance first reach out to you and then ultimately make a deal with you? Why? Why you two? Why did they trust you with these movies that they put you on?
Well, what Dana Goldberg would say to you, because she's the one that reached out, they needed a deeper bench because this is 11 years ago or more, and they wanted to build the company. David had a lot of aspirations,
It's like 20
which
years
have,
ago.
yeah. Is it that long? No.
Yeah.
The movie Life, 15 years
Oh,
ago.
no, sorry. That was only a decade ago.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
only a decade ago.
Yeah. Oh, right. Life, because Albert Nobbs was when Sage was born. See, I do dates by my daughter's age too. But
You're right. 11 years
Dana
ago.
and I have been friends for 30 years. I've known Dana since I moved to LA. And the independent market, Julie and I had made all these independent films, and the budgets were just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it was getting harder and harder to sell them, although we've never not sold a film we've made. But they just, knock on wood, but it was, for me, it was getting hard to support myself, and I had a baby, and, then we get into kindergarten and schooling and all the, just all the cost of living in Los Angeles. I called up my friend Dana and said, Julie and I are looking. I might have even said for a job. I don't know, but I basically,
because you kept telling me it's not a job. Don't worry.
yeah, but we're looking to get back into the studio business. I know how to do it. And, Julie, it knows 10 times more about making movies than I do. Let's, if you've got something. And we started that process, and we had a couple of meals with them. We had a meal with her and David. And I don't even think they brought Don Granger in yet.
No, we started before he was.
Yeah. And they brought Don in like right after we started. And she had 2 scripts she wanted us to read. We picked Life. We looked at directors with them, brought Daniel in, but they needed to stay in LA. They needed to not be on set, and they needed someone they could trust to go be on set for them, but that they would feel they were going to get the straight scoop. And that, and Dana and I, I'm never not going to give Dana the straight scoop. So that's what we did for them on Live.
On time and on budget. And
yeah, which they were thrilled.
And we had to accelerate post on that. There was some more money set aside to do that.
We pulled some rabbits out of hats for them on that.
And
one.
then,
Well, I would imagine you pull rabbits out of hats every time, and that's being veterans and having done your more than 10,000 hours each and really understanding the business. And kudos to them that they were intelligent enough to know that having people on their movies that can see the bigger picture and will give them the straight scoop and come up with solutions in the same way that you gave news to Steven and he solved it. That is what we're supposed to do every day. And I think that has gotten lost somewhat in the business, because I don't know that we're viewed as producers in the same way that we once were. I don't know that the first thing people would say is, oh, I need someone who can solve problems and give me the straight answers when describing producers, if you're looking at it from the studio side. Which brings me to some of the challenges. And you brought it up yourself, Bonnie. You produced for Steven. You guys had a deal at Skydance. Everything's going great. You guys are killing it. What are some of the challenges you're finding in today's world? But more importantly, beyond those challenges, what are you doing to pivot and really kind of adapt to those challenges? Because that's really, to me, the most important thing. There's plenty of media that will tell you what the challenges are and that they're happy to put those in big headlines every day. What are you two, as really talented people that have made a lot of movies, doing to adapt?
Yeah, it is definitely a mélange. I think, first of all, we have to continuously ask the people who are financing things what kinds of things they're willing to finance. And every once in a while, even though it's outside the bounds of what anybody wants to finance, we take something on just because we love it. Like if anyone listening to this podcast has a spare $1 million, we have a small independent drama that's going to be amazing that we still need some financing on, because that's impossible. Nobody wants that right now, right?
When you also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you ask the what, do you also ask the why? Like, what are you willing to finance? Do you ever follow up that question with why?
It tends to be a pretty expansive conversation, which includes a why, but it's also about who are you trying to reach, right? And who are you trying to reach and why? And is this a one-time thing you're looking for, or is this a genre that you intend to be in for a long time? And we have to keep asking the question and keep engaging with folks because it is constantly shifting. With our little indie, we took it out to all the places that used to do the indie difficult stuff. And to a person, they all said to us, "Oh, what a great script. We love this. We love this. Do you have anything in horror?" Everybody, do you have a horror movie? Like, we're looking for genre. This, we can't, drama's not possible, which breaks my heart a little bit. And, when streaming came into the land of the living for all of us, around the same time as it started before the pandemic, but it really became really vibrant during the pandemic. We were like, great, this is going to be a new place to do independent film. And indeed, Netflix, bought To the Bone right out of Sundance from us and, commissioned 2 projects for us. And we were really excited. What is interesting now, and they have to be fiscally responsible, is they now have been on the scene long enough for their own algorithms to tell them what they need and want, right? So it's constantly shifting. We thought streaming was going to be the savior of small independent film, and it turns out that's not true. We have to find another way to skin that particular cat now, right? So we have to keep engaging with the buyers who we really like and find out, what is it that you're looking to make? Who is it for? Why? On what scale, right? Because the scale of what they're willing to underwrite also, that could knock a period film out and away from you, or it could knock an entire genre away from you.
You know what's sad about that also is that those people that were and should be really good at making those independent movies, the adult, difficult ones that are the singles and doubles, and occasionally you have one that breaks out. Those people that did those and should be doing those are good at that. And that's what they do. And for them to try to pivot to horror when they're probably not great at it, probably not their passion, just to do it because they're following a trend is never going to work because they don't know how. They're not inherently good at it, right? Well, Michael Eisner gave me a really, really good piece of advice when there was a moment in time, it was either right before or right after we bought Miramax. I was at Disney and I was so depressed because I had this slate of movies that nobody gave a shit about. And everybody was chasing what Harvey was doing. Everybody. And Michael Eisner said, sometimes, Todd, it's important to know when you're in the right room and when you're not in the right room. He goes, yeah, if you went to work in Merchant Ivory or Miramax, you would have a very tough time. But luckily you work at the Walt Disney Company and you're the executive vice president of production at Touchstone Pictures. And within 6 months, Joe Ross was hired and all my movies got greenlit.
Yeah.
Had I pivoted and tried to just throw out all, by the way, I think those movies were like The Waterboy and Con Air and, different bigger movies, I would have pivoted and just floundered because it's not inherently what I'm great at. I mean, I did work on like Ed Wood and a Paul Thomas Anderson movie called Punch Drunk Love, but those were brought to me. I wasn't like I was really good at hunting those down. And so I worry, I'm beyond worried at this point. It kills me that the people that should be doing exactly what you're saying, i.e. financing those movies, being really good at it, coming at it from a different way, which is what A24 did, and now they're getting into the bigger budget stuff, having somebody who just did that was great because you could make those the best that they're going to be, give those the best shot of being financially successful, which then breeds more of them. The fact that everybody's just chasing the algorithm now is very sad. It's even sad that Netflix is chasing the algorithm because they actually make the algorithm. So now it just feels like it's eating its own tail now at some point with all the data everybody has. So it's too bad because there is an opportunity there. If you make something really good at a price, you can have a really vibrant business.
I will say in the defense of some of these folks, like I went to Edward Berger's new movie this past week, and I know that he's a really extraordinary filmmaker who does something different every time out of the gate. And I know that Netflix gave him the creative support to be able to do that. So it's not that it's not happening. It is happening. Now, he had to do a lot of successful movies to get to that point. I think the part that is maybe harder now is who's going to buy my really interesting movie that is a drama or a dramedy with the first-time writer, first-time director. Who's going to buy that? And because there's a worry about who's going to buy it and either put it in theaters or put it on their service, it has made a lot of the financiers gun shy and looking for things that are more obviously commercial. And there's no blame in that story. It is everybody doing their job to protect the people who are behind them and supporting them. But it is an unfortunate end point of where we are at this time. I believe that there's green shoots of possibility, that now there are, for instance, a lot of young people who don't want to watch the same thing. I do believe that there is going to be a desire, and I think that hopefully there will be people who start to have success, picking up the things that are a little bit riskier because there will be a hunger for them in the audience, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all cyclical. And I don't think there is blame to be attached or finger pointing. I just think everybody really is trying to do the best they can under the circumstances they're in.
You know what's strange to me? And you guys can comment on this more than me because it's not a world that I really live in very much. Like if I was to say to you, oh, I have a movie about this very, very troubled chef that comes back to his family when his brothers committed suicide and he's going to rebuild this restaurant. It's a great $1 million movie. I couldn't get it made, but Bear is a series that I find that the ideas that I see that are the series that everybody gravitates to, whether it's Severance or Bear, those were the movies that the independent cinema were making. And now, even like Manchurian Candidate, and now they would rather spend a lot more money to make it into a series than risk less money to make it into a movie. You can never get The Bear made as a movie. So what's your take on that, if you have one?
That's a viewing habits thing. We have a similar version of this conversation often, because Julie and I, we love the experience of making, an under 2-hour feature film. We love that. The television, we've only done one television show and we found it very frustrating, like slow down, let's get this right, and I think we would love to do a limited series because that would be a deep dive. But I think I think it's absolutely viewing habits. I mean, the algorithm's got to be telling them that.
Yeah. But it's like, even like Adolescence, could have been a really good A24 movie 5 years ago.
I can't think of a single place that would finance that.
Yeah.
No, but they'll make it as a very long, very risky investment series because there's
streaming thing.
Yeah. Well, I believe also it's because you give the audience more time to catch up to it. You have like 3 episodes. Well, this is really good. You should watch this.
I saw a New Yorker cartoon a few months ago where it was joking about this. It was like, oh, I don't really want to watch a movie tonight. Let's binge this 14-hour.
Exactly.
And you end up staying up all night binging something, but you didn't want to spend, 90 minutes watching a movie. I don't know.
The movie that I saw, the last movie I saw where I was watching it, thinking to myself, this very well could have been a Duplass Brothers independent television series shot in Eagle Rock, was Friendship. I was like, I could see this as like a 10 episode TV series, just following this character around, bumbling through life. So I was like, at least heartened to know, oh, well, at least that one got through.
You would not be able to get that financed as a film,
Yeah.
but it's a successful TV show. It's such a great point, Todd. Listen, the three of us, you, me, and Bonnie, we love what we do. We love making communal art. That's what it is, right? A painter works on their own, a poet works on their own. I mean, I think like dance or like theater, we love, getting together with other like-minded people and making art together.
Yeah.
And so we just have to figure out how to keep doing it. We have to be platform agnostic, and we have to be, in some ways, but not in all, genre agnostic, and find what it is. Bonnie and I talk all the time, vis-a-vis our Skydance stuff, about where's the Venn diagram between a Mockingbird movie and a Skydance movie.
Mm-hmm.
Where do those two things line up, partially or fully? And that's what we seek out, is the thing that we can love and they can love, or anybody. We have a movie at Searchlight. We have our indie. What is our Venn diagram with that financier, where everybody can be rowing the boat in the same direction?
Well, what is your North Star now that the business is changing and all the things we've talked about? What does a day in the life of Mockingbird Pictures look like? How are you guys going about finding material and kind of pushing the rock up the Sisyphetic hill?
It depends on the day. I mean, we have a director of development. We have a lovely assistant. The two
Lindsay
of us,
Palmer and Jake Bucheski. Let's give them a shout out.
Give them a shout out, Lindsay and Jake. We are reading and watching all week, every week. And I'd say we have probably 9 projects in active development. And every project, we listen to what each project needs. Is this the project that we need to form a pitch on, or do we need to go get a director on this? And we have a couple of scripts. We're old, Todd, as you might know. Our combined age is more than 100.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple of scripts that writers have handed us, because we've made movies with them and they like how we do it. So we have benefited from that with a couple of phenomenal pieces of material, one of which we're trying to get an actor on, one of which we're trying to get an actress on,
one of which we're trying to get a director on.
And then another we're trying to get a director on. It just depends on the project.
Can you see this? See that little corkboard over there?
Yeah.
That's all of our projects that are in various stages of development. And we'll have what we call a Mockingbird meeting, where we, the 4 of us, Lindsay and Jake and Bonnie and I, sit down and we look at each of our cards and like, okay, have we done everything that up to the point where there's nothing more to do at this moment in time for that project? That's what a Mockingbird meeting is. We look at each card and think, what do we need to do for that? What do we need to do for that index card, that project?
Right.
Well, and also, we are anticipating a very busy 2026. I think we would have had a very busy 2025 if Skydance hadn't been busy merging with Paramount. That's required a lot of patience on our part.
Mm-hmm.
But we've taken the time to develop things.
Yeah.
And, I bet we have 3 or 4 projects in various stages of packaging that we wouldn't have even been involved with if we were on set.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good year to do that. And
although we're antsy now, we're ready to get back.
Oh gosh, yeah. And if you're not on set, it's terrible. It feels like you're going backwards. And I actually I count the days. Like, well, God, man, it's been so long. And then I realized, it was March. Okay, well, that's not so bad. And then pretty soon it'll be March of 2026. I go, no, it's a long time. My goodness.
Yeah, we're itching to get back on set.
Yeah.
So, advice for young people that may be thinking, Hollywood's dead. I can't. The press just, and the media, everybody tells me it's over. AI is going to take it. Why even try? What would be your advice to somebody who really wanted to be, the next Julie Lynn or Bonnie Curtis? If you could go back and to yourself right now, coming out of college or being a young person that's working in the mailroom or an assistant on someone's desk who might be feeling discouraged because they can't open their phone without just getting bad news, those little sprouts of optimism, how would you water them for them?
Julie and I will have two different answers because it's the way that we did it. You know,
Find Steven Spielberg, and then
well, and I
simple.
had worked for a year and a half before that opportunity literally fell in my lap. But I was working over at Disney. But what I would say and do say, because I think I had 3 Zooms last week and a lunch, the week before last, which were all like young people who want to be in the film business. I have a list of 10 movies that I make them watch. And I say, call me back after you've watched them. That tends to weed out about 75% of them.
If you gave that list to all of the creative executives in Hollywood, how many people, what's the percentage of you think who would have seen all 10?
Well, I can tell you we love working with the ones who have.
Got it.
And the people over at Skydance have seen all of them.
Can you rattle them off really quick?
No, they're going to include Terms of Endearment and Broadcast News. It's going to include All About Eve, To Kill a Mockingbird, Fabulous Baker Boys. They're just my favorite.
That's a Bonnie favorite. Yeah,
they're just my favorites. And but it's also going to have Casablanca, perfect movie. It's probably going to have a Kubrick film, a Coppola, probably Godfather. My daughter has seen all of them.
I've seen all of them, so I feel good about myself.
Yeah, Julie's will have Singing in the Rain, but it's just the movies that are the reason I fell in love with movies, you know?
I think she's giving those movies to spark something. It's not that those are the 10 movies that are the finite movies you must see. We made a much longer list for my son who wants to be in movies, and he's really methodically working his way through it. It's less about that.
3 Days of the Condor.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's less about that for Bonnie than follow-up, tenacity, taste. These things are what make it happen for you. And I think if you have tenacity and you develop a sense of taste and you read a lot and watch a lot, and as Rodrigo would say, fill up your tank with great art. And then if you will find people who you want to be in the foxhole with, people that you want to creatively collaborate with.
Clute.
Oh yeah, she's going to keep pushing that.
I love them all.
I think then you will find something, because here's the thing. AI may be coming for all of us, but at least for the foreseeable future, human beings are going to be required to make forward-looking art, right? Because at least for now, what AI is looking at is what has come before us, right? And there will still be a need for human creativity, at least in the near future. I don't know. I can't predict past the 5-year window, right? And so it's really about being choosy, establishing for yourself what is the piece of material, because it all starts with the screenplay, that I am really willing to go to the mat for. And when other people tell me they're passing on it and they don't think it's that good, I know in my heart of hearts that they're wrong. Who is the director or the writer-director that I will ride or die with, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes these elements change. I mean, the formula is inexact, it's imperfect. I think the secret is getting up every day and feeling really excited to move the thing forward. I do not dread Mondays, right? I really don't, because I love the 3 people that I work with every day, and I love the projects. And some of them are going to be a lot harder than others, a lot. But we believe in them. So it's fun for us to make the calls for them.
I think what Bonnie is also saying is those 10 movies and the longer list you made for your son, what it is intended to do is for people to find their own taste.
Yeah.
To spark to a movie that leads them to another movie that leads them to another movie, and be like, why am I going down this rabbit hole? I showed my daughter one Cameron Crowe movie and she's obsessed with him, and we'll just keep going down the rabbit hole. And so for me, it was Raising Arizona. It just turned my life upside down.
Give me a baby high.
And I just kept.
I love him so much.
I also think it's not just about developing your own taste, but it's also tenacity, right?
Yeah.
What you just heard Bonnie say, 75% of the people don't bother to watch all 10.
Well, and I put this in the same category as you'll get phone calls like my uncle's good friend or my dad's good friend will call and say, my son or my daughter really want to be in the film business. Can they meet with you? And I always say, here's my phone number, have them call me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, half of them don't call because mom and dad want them to be in the film business.
Yeah.
I'm very much interested in, there's no way you could have kept me from making movies. I had grown up wanting to make movies. It's what I wanted to do. I was going to learn however I had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you want that. You want to be surrounded by that. Our assistant Jake has seen more movies than I have, and I didn't think anybody had seen more movies than I had.
That gives me hope because I have been in meetings with executives who didn't know who Blake Edwards was. So what?
Oh, that just, it's over for me.
Julie, I'm going to ask you first because Bonnie, I'm going to set you up. So Julie, best day on set. But before you answer, get ready, Bonnie. I'm asking you the same question, but best day on set was Steven Spielberg. So best day on set, Julie, for you.
I'm going to give you two different answers. I want to tell you
Sure.
one thing that he does every movie that I really inspires glee in me, even when it's difficult. In every movie, she comes to me at some point in one of the earlier shoot days, and she looks at me like this. We have our first situation. Meaning something really big has happened. An actor has gone down for the count, or we've lost the next day's location, or there's asbestos in the warehouse that we're going to be. And she's so gleeful about it that I can only be gleeful with her. But I can tell you an exact moment. And it was a movie that I was making before Bonnie was making movies with me, although she did come to visit that set because we knew each other at this point, which is shocking because most of my fun stuff and joy has come by working with Bonnie. But I remember very clearly being, just taking a second. We were in between shots on a movie, and I just tucked myself a little bit out of the way, on one of those director's chairs. And I remember very, very distinctly looking around and seeing the dolly guys laying track and the lighting guys setting up their lights, the electrics setting up their lights, the grip setting the track, the wardrobe folks preparing, the script supervisor in her notes, the director talking to an actor. And I remember thinking, I cannot believe I get to be here witnessing all this competence.
Amazing.
And that this is my job. Like, I read the script, I fell in love with it. We somehow got people to give us money. It was an independent film. I love it. And look at all these people doing completely different things, but in concert. I felt a little bit like a conductor must feel, even though the director's probably a better comp for the conductor than a producer is. But for that one moment, I felt like, look at all these people we were able to bring together. And competency is so sexy, I think, right? Like, everyone's just really good and joyful and bringing their A game, and we're doing this together. How did I get to be this lucky?
That's
It was
awesome.
such a pure moment of joy quite early in my career. And I think that was a crystallized moment on set for me that kind of set a tone for how I wanted to move forward in work. Does that answer your
Amazing.
question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Bonnie, best day on set with Steven Spielberg.
So many.
You gotta pick one.
We were on the coast of Ireland in a town called Wexford, and we were shooting Saving Private Ryan, and we were trying to shoot the D-Day invasion. And we had a very, very frustrating first day. Nothing was working. And, Steven hadn't wanted to storyboard it because you needed that chaos. And we had tried to do some storyboards out of the stunt department. He had rejected them. And I think his feeling was, let's just show up and see what happens, kind of like they did. But we didn't get any usable footage. It was very frustrating. And, the effects guys weren't ready when they were supposed to be. The stunt guys weren't ready when they were supposed to be. The camera wasn't where it was supposed to be. It was bad. And when I walked Steven to the car that night, he was really quiet. He was, I think he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And he had a very good mother. So he always says, please and thank you. I love him to death. But he was really quiet. And I said, well, maybe tomorrow will be better, And then it occurred to me, and this is where it heads into a very similar answer that Julie
Except for
gave.
her stories are so much better than mine.
But the crew needed to plan, and he didn't want to be aware of that plan. He wanted to direct chaos. And I, we'd been around for months having these conversations, so I didn't just pull this out of thin air, but it occurred to me that there was a way for the effects and hair and makeup and wardrobe and stunts. There was a way to pre-rig a lot of these things at once. I believe there were 27 different gags, I'll call them. Like we would have a guy who was an amputee, and there would be effects would have rigged an explosion. It would go off and his leg would blow off, his fake prosthetic leg. Okay, so that's number one. Number two on the list is these bullet holes that are going to go across the back hill, and the guys are going to try to dodge them. Like there's literally 27 different things going on at once, but they didn't have everything rigged at once, and they didn't know where the camera was going to be. So in my naivete, which is sometimes a brilliant thing, I said, can we have everything rigged at once and have it 3 or 4 deep? And Neil Corbell was our effects guy, and he said, you give me $250,000 and I can do that. And Ian Bryce was like, you got it. And then I said, and what we need to do is create for Steven a laminated list that's numbered 1 through 27, and he can call out the number before the take. Give me a 7 and a 15. And those things were going to happen. And we would just keep going on every take. So he could direct in a way, but it would be chaos. And it almost it was almost like a video game. And Ian also brought in 2 extra cameras. And so we had 5 cameramen. Steven gets out of the car this day 2 on the beach, and I hand him the laminated list. And I say, these are rigged 7 deep. Call out any number and we'll be ready. And his entire body relaxed, and he gave me a big hug.
Oh my God.
I said, I don't know if it'll work, but let's go try.
Wow.
But everybody, and I keep in mind, I'd been his assistant for a lot of years. So I also knew how his brain worked. It made sense to me. That's all I did. Everybody else then shows up and are the experts and deliver their best. And what Steven did that was so brilliant. And so it became the most joyous, fun, exciting day because we got so much great footage after a day that had been a disaster. Steven started getting the cameramen competing with each other.
That's amazing.
And then the cameramen started to figure out what a number 7 was. So they were really like knocking each other out of the way to get to be the best shot. And then Steven would call everybody over for playback. We would watch all 5 cameras play back, and he would award the winner.
That's amazing.
Which works when Spielberg
Sure.
these guys are like, ah. And so combat cameramen. I mean, you had this effect of kind of these combat cameramen who were just trying to get the shot. And Janusz, of course, had the shaker and the Dior pantyhose across the lens. And we were rocking and rolling, but it was a great day too.
That's
and
a great day.
After that, we had our method.
Bonnie, that might be the best day I've heard. I just have to say. I got to say, in all the days.
I think about that all the time because the lesson from that, and Julie and I hear it on almost every movie, anybody who tells you that they've got it all figured out is lying.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. And one of the higher you get in this business, the more experienced people you work with, people who've won Oscars, some of the first words out of their mouth will be, I'm just making this up as I go.
And have the confidence to be able to say that.
Yes.
That's the key. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, that's Rodrigo, Garcia, Glenn Close. We all got in a circle first day of Albert Nobbs. And Rodrigo said that. He goes, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Do any of you know what you're doing? And I remember really like relaxing into it when he did that. It was such a lovely thing to say. And, but anyway, everybody is learning on every movie. It's one of the fun things about doing it.
And you have to learn and get better on every movie. And like you guys did when you didn't know anything and you let the actor say whatever he wanted, and you got the studio saying, we'd really prefer if you did this script. You learn the next time not to let them do that. Well, thank you guys so much. This was unbelievably fun and amazing as always. And I really appreciate you guys. And so thank you for giving us your time and your advice. I appreciate it.
Thank you for caring about the craft of producing, Todd Garner. That's a big gift.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of The Producer's Guide. If you're a fan of this podcast, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. And if you got any questions about producing, send me a DM on X at Todd_Garner. I want to thank my producer, Steve Delamater. And until next week, I'm Todd Garner. See you then.